Am I the butthole for not wanting my husband to go to his ex's funeral? I'll admit I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s. She died recently, aneurysm. I've been with him 10 years now, but he'd known her for 20 plus. The way he tells it, they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple months into dating, it came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me that's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time. I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing. When we were engaged, I asked again. He gave me this perplexed look and asked, why would us getting married affect my friendships? I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. He'd have lunch with the ex, they'd go to their geeky movies, and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said we had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out. She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him, you don't think you're going, do you? My argument, summed up, she's dead, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his she's my friend excuse since she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple days, he gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to her funeral, since I wouldn't want her at his. He was the angriest I've ever seen him when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel, and that he's willing to burn this to the fucking ground while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband and my sisters are calling me an insensitive asshole over this, all saying that there was no romantic aspect to their relationship, and that I'm heartless. Her husband went so far as calling me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt their relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel I should have to hide it anymore, and can speak freely. Am I the butthole for just wanting him to be done with her, and for him to not attend the funeral? You're the butthole? When he divorces you, he probably won't have to explain his friendship with you to the next woman because, seriously, who'd want to stay friends with a woman who had treated you like this? How heartless. You're the butthole op. I can't believe what I just read. Seriously. I kept shaking my head while reading this, thinking it couldn't get any worse, but op still managed to dig deeper. How can you be so stone cold? She basically said, yeah, hubby had time to cry for a few days, that's enough, he should move on and forget about her already, and still ask whether you really are the butthole. Yes, op, you're the butthole? Big time. You're the butthole? Best comment here so far. Op is very you're the butthole? If it bothered her so much, she should not have married him. He was upfront about it. If she had any class, she could have just not said anything, gave her condolences, and be done with it. But she had to show off her ghoul fave to everyone in mourning. What kind of monster is relieved that her husband's friend died? Way to show your true colors, somewhere in the middle of snot green and pure black. Op should get some therapy and go look for a heart with Dorothy. I've been thinking about this a lot, and based on the op's behavior, I am so sad the guy lost the only good friend in his life. The op isn't one. I, too, was gobsmacked when op said relieved. Absolutely heartless and downright cruel. I really hope they don't have any children together, so when he divorces op, he can cut contact for good. If they had children, op would have mentioned that after she got pregnant, she again tried to convince him that he needed to give up his friendship. You're the butthole, you were explicitly told that he would never stop being friends with her. If you think she's gone from your life, think again. He will be grieving and missing his close friend of 20 years, and when you tell him to just get over it, I hope he does, by moving on to find a partner that is caring and understanding. I can't even believe this is real. I can't imagine not supporting my husband grieving a lifelong friend. To say she no longer exists? Just absolutely cruel. This marriage was doomed from the start, poor guy just didn't know it yet. Edit, you're the butthole big time. And being relieved when she died. You're the butthole, congrats on your impending divorce. If she doesn't exist anymore, why are you still so jealous of her? He can't even leave you for her now, so I think it's time you got past it. You're the butthole? You can speak freely, and he can leave after finding out how heartless you actually are. Fair enough. I bet he will leave her over this anyway, even when the ex is dead. 'Cause damn did she prove to be a shitty person. That's the thing though, even if she doesn't exist, that doesn't mean there will be nothing else to worry about. Every anniversary of the death, every birthday of hers that she's no longer here for, etc. Does she expect him to not acknowledge any of that? Because from what it sounds like, he's the type of person who would. Just because she's gone, doesn't mean she's gone. Even her death isn't going to be enough for Op, she's going to want him to pretend this person never existed in the first place. She is so insecure she has made up this competition with a woman who isn't even alive any longer. She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly I was relieved. Read this sentence you wrote and try to explain to anyone how you aren't the asshole. You're the butthole? He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him you don't think you're going, do you? Read this sentence you wrote and try to explain to anyone how you aren't the asshole. You're the butthole? I hope he gets a good divorce lawyer. She was relieved. How unempathetic can a person be? He needs you by his side now. If you really loved him, you would know that. But you have chosen, you're the butthole. Seriously. I mean, regardless of how she felt about this woman, she was a human being. On the way to the car sounds like. In front of him. I saw someone I didn't know die in front of me and had nightmares for 1.5 months. Up, you're the butthole? A customer committed suicide at my workplace, and though I assisted with the evacuation, the most I saw was the impact footage I had to show the police after the event. I could not sleep for more than 2 hours a day for a month, and 5+ years later, I still have a rough time in the lead up to the anniversary. Death witness trauma is very real and can really mess you up. If this is real, huge, you're the butthole. Not because you didn't like her. You're the butthole because he is grieving the loss of someone important to him and you're trying to invalidate his feelings. Agree. If this is real, you're the butthole. I struggle to see how anyone could sit down, write this, and not realize what a horrible human being they are. But just to recap, early in your relationship you were told of this close friendship and you were dishonest about your feelings by omission. Your age gave you the option of walking away if you were uncomfortable. You chose not to, anything to get that ring right, but have selfishly and miserably lived with resentment ever since. You sucked it up and went along but didn't really, languishing in your own insecurity and trying to manipulate and control your husband. The woman has died. She wasn't a threat in life and certainly isn't in death. But your own admission, you never supported the friendship and hid it for years, shows how deceitful you are. You pretended to accept something you didn't. The best gift of friendship this woman could give your H in her death is exposing what a nasty piece of work you are. Job done. You've done your husband, yourself, and your relationship a disservice for years. And now, because you can't control your hate, you're going to see the consequences. Happy divorce? Perfect summary. I hope your husband sees this and does some true hard thinking up. You're truly an awful person. You did your marriage a disservice from the very start. Excellent analysis. You're the butthole? You're the butthole. I pray that my man soon breaks free from this marriage. This cannot be real, and if it is, you're the butthole. In fact, you're a nominee for Butthole of the Year, and I think you might win. Right? Her husband is grieving a sudden loss of a deep, close friendship, and she's throwing a petty temper tantrum now? I hope her husband realizes how selfish she is and leaves her. This is the most monstrous take I've seen on this sub in a while, and this am I the butthole, so that's really saying something. I don't even know why you're here asking, BC. Everyone in your life has already told you what you'll hear here. The lack of compassion you've shown in your post honestly makes me wonder how you've managed to hoodwink your husband to ever think you're a decent person. You're the butthole, And I don't think you should be surprised if your husband goes to that funeral and doesn't come back. You're the butthole? This is unbelievably cruel. And frankly, cutting off your own nose. It's awful to say, but you just got what you wanted. You just had to be quiet for 2 more weeks. You're the butthole? You are jealous of a dead woman. A dead woman who was your husband's close friend and confidant for years, and you did know it right off the bat. You can't even give him a chance of closure? And it's not up to you to decide when he is done with mourning. Keep up being jealous of her, and you will find yourself to be his ex-wife as well.